Before this referendum campaign began, I hoped that all the good arguments for leaving would come out and be made, that people would all be pointing out the real threat that the EU is. But that didn't happen. Most of the arguments made by the various Leave organisations seem to be economic primarily. And this is a weakness because the anti-EU position was never really about the economics. The economy was always the argument of the pro-EU crowd, and for the Leave campaign to argue economics is to play on their turf, dancing to Cameron's tune. They have let the Remainers dictate the conversation. It is not that the EU is good for the economy, but that people who are against the EU are not used to arguing economics, and the pro-EU side has all the big economic institutions on its side, lending them their credibility. When the Leave campaigners are not talking economics, it is either some guff about the NHS, or that nauseating phrase, "take back control." But the history of EU opposition has been primarily national sovereignty and independence, with everything else a long way behind in importance. The "take back control" line misses the point. It is not that the control that Brussels has should be in Westminster, it is that that control should not exist. The EU should not have any control of part of our lives. Nobody should. And the way to make sure that nobody does is to keep out of ever closer union with this sinister bloc, to maintain British sovereignty. But there is stuff of far greater importance. I think the most important stuff that nobody on the mainstream media has said at all and is not really spoken of much elsewhere. We should leave the EU because Europe does not have a tradition of liberty, of things like common law, habeas corpus or jury trial. We forget what a precious defence against arbitrary imprisonment and state-corrupted lawyers a jury trial is, and many do not realise that it is uniquely Anglosphere. It illustrates the difference between European and British culture very clearly. Whereas England has more than 1,000 years of history of people being judged by their peers, Europe rejects the notion. The Germans tried jury trial for a bit in the 20th century, but decided that the common man could not be trusted to make judgments, and it returned to a judge or judges doing all the work themselves. Europe has a tradition of a small group of public-spirited experts directing the country from above. Britain has a tradition of liberty, of each person for themselves finding the best way in life. It is liberty that is the friend of prosperity, of peace, of people being able to pursue and fulfill their dreams. It is liberty that allows the most happiness. It is the common law that the EU does not even understand. They must regulate everything. They must protect you from pursuing your desire. They must crush your dreams under a huge mountain of paperwork and permissions. It is because of this that the EU is a direct threat to your physical safety. I will give an example. Recently in Germany, a man, Jan Böhmermann, was arrested and prosecuted for writing a poem that insulted a foreign dignitary. Those who support the EU want us to be in the same superstate as those who arrested Böhmermann. We do not want to be in the same country as those people. We do not want, as Cameron does, to be in the same federal union as that goat-fancying Turk. In Europe, I could be imprisoned for that line. For now we still have some liberty. We still have a chance. The Europhiles try to get us to vote for the EU by saying that some things might go up in price, or that years from now I might be a few £1,000s less well off than otherwise. This is contemptible. They want us to sell our liberty that our ancestors toiled and bled to preserve. They want us to sell our birthright for a few months' rent. No. We must preserve our liberty. We must protect our liberty by leaving the EU.